Hi, everyone. We had a little bit of a delay, but I'm here with Bhuva Shakti. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. I should have probably asked you first. I'm Ariel Serber. This is Secure the Bag. I've been hosting community organizers and builders, entrepreneurs, founders, investors, and others for a few years here now, just getting their story, getting to their mission, and seeing how the community can support them. So I wanted to speak to Bhuva because she, along actually with Nicole Casperson, who many know, is hosting a event for Climate Week, which is coming up here in New York. So I wanted to get right into it, but maybe introduce yourself, Bhuva, and a little bit about your background. We'll get into it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Bhuva Shakti. You pronounced it right. I spent
Good.
3 decades on Wall Street leading risk governance and digital transformation for some of the world's top investment banks. With that, I learned firsthand how capital moves and how I often see entrepreneurs and communities who need it most miss it. There's a lot of capital
Right.
floating around, but people who need it don't have real access. So that's why I transitioned into venture capital. I back founders building solutions in technology, fintech, AI, climate, and sustainability. And I also launched Wallet Max. I'm the founder and CEO of a global community. We have executives, investors, as well as startups in our community. Our goal is to expand fundraising access for overlooked startups. We started as monthly gatherings in New York so long ago, but now it has grown into a network that connects solutions to capital globally. And we do a lot of
Okay.
events during FinTech Week, Tech Week, and Climate Week, as well as other global forums throughout the year. The Emerald Summit that's coming up in September 19th, this year during New York City Climate Week, is a day long event where we bring together climate sustainability, tech, fintech partners. More importantly, share thought leadership, take real action. But we also have a pitch competition where startups that are in seed, series A, and beyond are able to showcase their innovation. And we have a judging panel of investors who are able to offer feedback, and we select winners for startup awards. We kind of end the day with an executive private dinner for, again, C suite folks, investors, and startups in the space so that we can continue to take action beyond
Yeah.
the talks and the pitch itself for the day.
Yeah. And why for you, because, someone from a Wall Street background, the climate side of it does, why is that an important aspect of it for you, maybe personally? Because I feel like a lot of times the mission and the person on the mission have to connect, right? Like a founder has to connect to the industry they're in and the problem they're solving and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I was managing risk on Wall Street, which involved technology risk and financial risk. And one of the opportunities I saw while on Wall Street was inclusion. So I come from Columbia Business School, where I did my MBA. When I was advising startups and also trying to fundraise for startups on their behalf, many times, if it is a climate startup, I am asked a question by an investor that you have to either run a nonprofit or you have to put your impact metrics to the appendix so that you can focus on financial projections. To me, that's a no, because number one, the startups I was advising while at Columbia Business School, while also pursuing Wall Street career, had
Hmm.
innovative, sustainable climate solutions. And again, climate is not a separate sector; it is inherent in bringing clean water, fresh air, as well as waste management, sustainable fashion, resilience in terms of preparing for disasters. So it impacts so many
Sure.
sectors. And I was told you have to run a nonprofit or eliminate impact metrics. So that was one of my triggers to become a venture capitalist myself so that I don't have to
Okay.
educate everyone as to how good it is.
Right. And I find that it's very much connected to because my background is much more, I guess, risk management and insurance, right? And as I'm sure you've seen, the uh, the catastrophic costs of all these storms, as well as fires and things that are definitely made worse recently, and probably will be continuing to. get worse over time, that is going to impact the financial world, and then the actual uh, people like us, either we're homeowners or renters, being able to actually afford the insurance. Because if you can't insure something, you really can't afford it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I have a lot of case studies from insurance sector as well. So that's why at the start I mentioned, since I come from a risk management background,
Yeah.
climate risk was not being considered in every sector, and it was considered as its own vertical, where it should be a component in every industry. As an example, the insurance sector that you mentioned, one of the key examples that I've seen with a lot of my friends as well, some of them live in California and Florida, and recently in Texas, they are not able to either buy a home or get mortgage or home insurance on their homes for the reason they live in a disaster prone zone, and it's becoming so difficult to predict the severity and the frequency of it that the
Mhm.
insurance companies are denying insurance. That may look like an insurance problem, but it is basically an inclusion and affordability problem, right? Because you're not able to build a house or live in a house where you want to live with your community, family, or run your business. And that's the same with the businesses, where businesses are getting displaced or relocated because they are not able to get relevant insurance or support. If a disaster happens, how are you going to rebuild? Sometimes you may not be able to rebuild and you'll have to displace your business. So it may look like insurance sector, but again, it all falls under climate risk being not
Right.
inherently captured.
Yeah, absolutely. Why did you call it the Emerald Summit? I was curious about that.
Yeah, so for me, and one of the reasons I named my company Wallet Max is with the trigger that it is not a non-profit. We are focused on profitable solutions that are
Okay.
here to maximize your wallet and still focus on sustainability. The reason why I wanted to call Emerald Summit is Emerald indicates sustainability, green, money, prosperity, and wealth, which means we are not just focusing on climate solutions that do good, but are also good for business as well as profitable for the communities. And that's why I named my community Wallet Max and my summit
Sure.
Emerald Summit.
No, that's great. So how is the community coming together next? It's next Friday, so that's the 19th.
Yes.
Can you speak more about, who's coming, who are they going to be the attendees, so they can have a little bit of a preview, and then we'll get to the speakers and some of the other people that are going to be there.
Yeah, so it's going to be a day long event next Friday, September 19th. The summit runs from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the evening dinner runs from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Who you can
Yeah.
expect an audience is number one, people who are in climate and not in climate. So that's the big distinction, meaning we spoke about insurance, there will be investment bankers, there will be other capital markets and alternate investments, venture capital, private equity. You could be a student studying sustainability or a climate in a graduate program. You could be a professor doing research or anything in the climate sector. There will be a lot of executives as well as students and startups and investors, in addition to policy leaders. So we are expecting audience from United Nations, World Economic Forum, and so on and so
Okay.
forth, which brings executives, investors, startups, as well as policy leaders, including emerging leaders from academia in the audience.
Yeah. So it's really across the board. Yeah, and I think a lot of those folks are often in silos, right?
Yes.
And that's
Mhm.
that's a challenge.
One of
So,
the
and I'm sure you can.
differentiators in our community, you rightly mentioned, because it is either we are matchmaking between founders and funders, or we are having executives and other policy leaders discussions. We need all of us to come together because climate is in every sector, and you could fund anywhere from pre-seed to IPO, and we need VCs as well as institutions to come together.
Yeah. I'm curious about the fintech angle. Obviously, finance, such as big finance, I would label that, the banks, the big insurers, the sort of established. Well, first of all, let's focus on that. Do you see them either? Uh, and it's a real new regulatory regime, to say the least, right now. So how are you seeing them interact with the kind of work that you're doing, and maybe uh, changing their behavior and being a little more thoughtful about how what they're funding or their activities are contributing or possibly mitigating risk?
Yeah, so fintech is a very big driver in terms of scaling climate solutions. So I can give a
Okay.
bunch of examples. As an example,
Sure.
if you are a small business, the primary reason that you are a small business is you need day-to-day capital, but you're also on the front lines of climate impact. If there is a flood or a disaster or food shortage or water or air quality challenges, small businesses cannot run their business the next day. We need capital flowing into some of these small businesses, and we have a small business panel also that talks strictly about this, how companies like Pfizer and so on are working with small businesses to support them in
Okay.
capital needs, but also help them through disasters. The second aspect
Right.
where fintech comes into picture is on the institutional side. This is on the other extreme of the spectrum, where you've already raised a series A or B. You need to scale across geographies, markets, because climate solution, when deployed in one region, is not helpful unless you deploy it across multiple geographies. So the institutional investors, so you will see a lot of investment banks and capital markets and private equity coming into our summit. That's a sustainable finance panel, which strictly focuses on high-end investing and funding and driving capital through the resources and alternate investments. Then you have the middle lane where you have startups that are in seed, series A and B. They are predominantly raising capital from angels or venture capital funds, or sometimes even fund of funds or family offices. So this is where we
Right.
have a range of solutions that are either in renewable energy, circular economy, or even otherwise climate resilience. So climate resilience has innovation not only in mitigation, but also when a disaster strikes, how we can minimize the cost or expense in recovery, right? In terms of time as well as money. So you have a full spectrum of capital flowing all the way from early stage ideas through IPO and exit, and it ranges from small businesses to large corporations with investment banks, PEs, hedge funds, and fund of funds coming together along with VCs and angels.
Okay. No, that's amazing, and it also it sounds like clearly, uh, I don't know. I guess we're closer to the beginning of this than the end, because it's going to be a long haul before these solutions create um, create the results and impact that we want. So,
Yeah,
how is teaming up with other community builders and organizers? Because I love that, and what you're doing with Nicole Casperson and her community. So, can you just speak about how that came about and sort of how that developed and came together?
yeah. So in the past several years, while we have been running all the Wallet Max events and the Emerald Summit as well during FinTech Tech Week and Climate Week, we've had a lot of amazing partners and sponsors, and you'll see a variety of those, right?
Okay.
So you have partnership from communities like FinTech is Film and other communities where we partnered over the last several years, because we are complementing each other in terms of how we are able to share resources and work towards a collective mission. So, if we are advancing funding in fintech, if we are advancing funding in climate, then it only makes sense for the climate and the fintech communities to come together and work together, because we are not
Yeah.
competing but rather complementing and bringing different perspectives together. That's the same thing where I have partnered with JP Morgan and similar investment banks, where they are more on the institutional side of capital, and they are
Mhm.
able to fund VCs who are able to fund startups. So, kind of,
Right.
it's a network where our VCs in the community are able to connect with institutional investors, and then we are able to deploy capital from institutions to VCs to startups. So that's another type of
Right.
partners and sponsors we've had. And the third type of
Yeah.
partners and sponsors we've had, and also because I come from Columbia Business School, is a lot of research and talent and workforce. So if you have deployed capital, if you have built solutions, you need people that can scale it and expand it across various markets. So we are able to access talent by partnering with universities like Columbia, NYU, and so on in the East Coast so far. And that
Hmm.
is also another component where we have a lot of traction. And one thing I stopped mentioning is startup communities, because we are not competing with accelerator programs, or we are not competing with how matchmaking and deploying capital happens. Our goal is to
Right.
bring startups, investors, executives, and communities together so we can fund the startups from early stage all the way to late stage. Because one of the
Yeah.
challenges we see is sometimes we get early stage capital and we are stuck with expanding. Sometimes you are expanding, but you need to take an IPO or a M&A, you don't have opportunities. So the goal is across the
Mm.
entire spectrum of capital deployment, bringing everyone together within our community and partnering with others so that we are complementing each other.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say um, how do you embed that sort of culture of uh, you know, people being supportive? Is it sort of like the people that join the community kind of are self-defined by that willingness to support others, and what have you seen? Can you give maybe an example or two of uh, you know, your community coming together to support either an entrepreneur or, maybe a business that was already existing?
Yeah, no, a lot of examples, but if I have to pick a couple of things, and one thing before I go into examples is in our community within Wallet Max, it is essential everyone has a give and ask, because that's the baseline for being a member in our community. Because you can have multiple asks, but if you are not able to share, collaborate, and mutually give for someone who is asking and giving, then it's not going to be a complementing relationship, right? So
Right.
that's one of the base things within our community. We do a lot of pitch competitions. One of the examples is there was an early stage startup that pitched at our last year's summit, Emerald Summit, during Climate Week, and they have raised close to $10 million capital in 1 year, in 12
Wow.
months between last September and now, because of the connections they made there. And you'll hear those success stories as well. When you meet them, they're coming back again to talk to us
Yeah, of
at
course.
Emerald Summit. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's one
They,
example. Yeah. From a startup side. On the investor side, what we have seen is the investors, like when startups are fundraising and trying to shop for investors, investors are also shopping. They need to have a healthy pipeline of solid startups that match their investment thesis. One of the things I've noticed is investors voluntarily attend our pitch competitions and other summits and events for the reason they are able to look at curated startups that are available, and then they are able to have due diligence discussions. So you'll see a couple of examples also that we'll showcase at the Emerald Summit. So those are two examples. And the last example from an institutional investor side is I've connected some of the communities that worked with my community to institutional investors, where in addition to supporting me as partners, some of my institutional investors have again partnered with the communities I introduced to them. So that's more
okay.
like a give and take, where I support a community, they are able to get partnership from an institutional investor I introduced, but then all of us are working towards the common mission. So these are case
Yeah.
studies. I'm happy to elaborate more at the summit
No,
for
that's great.
startups, investors, and institutions.
Yeah. And look, obviously, hopefully people that go, or are thinking of going, reach out to you and just talk to you about this stuff. I feel like the whole vibe of a community comes sort of as a reflection of the founder, creator, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's very authentic and genuine, and it's pretty clear that it's there. And we've never met in person, so um, not
Yeah,
yet, not yet. Soon,
not
hopefully
yet.
soon.
Yeah.
The problem with for me for Friday is a short day because I observe the Sabbath. So Friday is tough for me to come to the city. But what do you say to people that can only say like, okay, I can only come for maybe the morning? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so we have a variety of ticketing options. You can see it on the Luma page. You can also look at
Okay.
our website,
Okay.
getwalletmax.com, getwalletmax.com. So there are
Hmm.
multiple ticketing options. You can choose one that's lowest and closest to what you aspire to be. But if you still have a challenge, just drop an email, hello@walletmax.app, and we are happy to work with you to see how we can figure out an option that works for you and also for us.
Okay. So people, so we could be flexible here. So no,
Yeah.
that's good to know, and I appreciate that. Um, one panel on is going to be on sustainable finance. Can you talk and explain sort of what that is and how that came about and what the goals of that are?
Yes, sustainable finance panel is strictly focused on institutional investors because we are constantly talking about startups and investors, how they can support each other, but that's only up
Mhm.
to a certain stage. Once you are at Series A or even B, it is really difficult even for VCs to invest and help you grow across geographies. And that's why Sustainable Finance Panel, this is post lunch, a 2 o'clock panel, where we
Okay.
strictly talk about how institutional investors and investment banks and capital markets are able to support other fund of funds to help beyond Series B, right? So our
Right.
goal is late stage capital, bringing institutional investors, and we are going to be talking about strictly climate capital and sustainable and fintech capital. Of course, AI is a mix of everything because all
Sure.
industries have AI now, but we're going to be strictly talking to practitioners who have deployed capital beyond 200 million in late stage startup growth. And it is not strictly only on VCs, how institutional investors and fund of funds and PEs can help in the journey. So that's going to be the
Yeah.
sustainable finance panel.
Understood. Um, and I mean, you mentioned AI. AI is going to be spoken about a lot, I guess. I'm sure. What about the environmental consequence of AI and the energy it takes and the all the data centers and just everything that has to do with that? You know, what is the climate tech angle there?
Yes. So we have a panel on renewable energy that's coming up in the afternoon at 3:30 p.m. right after the pitch competition is over. We are strictly
Okay.
focusing not on, okay, what are the types of renewable energy available? I think by this time everyone knows what are the options out there. Our goal is it sustainable, scalable? Can we do it? On one side we have a lot of energy innovation, but the
Okay.
challenge is we are not able to scale because we have limitations on infrastructure, we have limitations on technology needs, we also have the need for AI and quantum computing and similar technologies to have
Hmm.
more energy, less efficiency, as well as less carbon footprint, right? So with so many angles, the 330 renewable energy panel is going to strictly focus on not what is renewable energy. Rather, we have so much innovation, but it is not scaling or addressing carbon footprint with growing technology needs as we want it to be today. So instead of spending time on innovating more and more on the renewable energy, we're going to be talking about with what we have, how can we reduce carbon footprint, address increasing technology needs, but also still scale across communities.
Yeah. Um, No, that's great. And I honestly didn't realize there was a panel on that. I was just asking because something you said got me curious about that. But that was a great pivot back. What about, I guess, buy-in from local, regional, state, even federal, I guess here in America, and it's obviously a global issue, and you know most countries around the world are trying to do or saying they're trying to do something about it, right? But how do you sort of almost how do you judge whether people or countries are serious about taking this on?
Yeah, so at least luckily or fortunately, we are in the New York City. So we have New York City Small Business Services representing the
Okay.
city joining us. It's on a
Right.
panel, again, a pitch competition judging, as well as we have small businesses. This is happening in the afternoon. So two things I want to highlight there. We are also bringing a lot of small businesses, small mom and pop shops who are
Cool.
considering sustainability as the core, plus getting support from New York City in terms of helping them be more inclusive and climate friendly, right? So that way you'll hear not from startups that are building high-end innovations, but small mom and pop shops in New York City supported by the city as well as by corporations and institutional investors still
Mm-hmm.
continuing the mission. So that's one. Second, we again have Pfizer and New York City Small Business Services partnering together on some of the discussions in the afternoon. One of the key things we'll be talking about is how can public-private partnership help accelerate some of this capital, right? So we spoke about
Mm-hmm.
institutional capital, we spoke about VC and private capital, but we also need the public policy support if we have to scale it across communities, cities, or even states. And that's why New York City representation is also going to be there in the afternoon at the summit. One other thing
Cool.
I want to highlight is in the morning, we also have representation from United Nations. So we have United Nations Disaster Risk Recovery Team joining us along with some of their counterparts. They're going to be talking about, regardless of local or federal support, there is support from UN and what are the options available, both in terms of mitigating as well as adapting. After a disaster strikes, how we can take help from them. Before a disaster strikes, how we can protect us. And they're going to be
Yeah.
talking about it more from a corporate resilience angle, right?
Uh-huh.
Because we have risk management, and you and I come from risk management background as well.
Yeah.
But UN panel is going to be also focused more on how this is important for corporate resilience than just a standalone issue. So you're going to have global policy from UN, local city, support from New York City, as well as institutions and banks being there so that we can have policy, institution, as well as local support.
Amazing. And I want to also just touch on the startups that are coming. What was the process to picking the ones that are coming, and what are the key elements that you look for, whether if you're wearing your investor hat or you're putting together, event organizing hat, uh, when dealing with startups, because I'm sure a lot wanted to come and give their pitch and presentation.
Yes, so it is not a 1 month process.
Okay.
Curating startups for the Emerald Summit once a year is a 12-month process. Typically, once a month throughout the year, I'm hosting pitch competitions or similar events. So startups are
Mm,
already graduating throughout month over month, and we are picking the top startups that have been coming out as winning startups through our monthly events already. And then we invite, so that's one collection of startups that have performed consistently better over 11-month period during our monthly
okay.
pitch competitions. Then we also invite public applications. So we have a public open application process. We specify clear criteria. So you have to be seed or series A or beyond. There should be customer and revenue traction, because we are, of course, trying to run a profitable, sustainable startup, not necessarily a non-profit.
Right.
And because it should be attractive for the venture capital and the institutional investors, right? So that they are able to get their ROI. But the most important thing is it has to be inclusive and environmentally conscious. So you will see AI startups that are building solutions to address climate risk. You will see hard tech software. You will see solutions that are strictly focused on fintech, but building for climate. So we do have a lot of hardware startups also coming that has no technology, but then they are building nuclear plants or even things that are related to wind and solar energy. So you'll see an array of them. Just in summary, once we collect all these applications, we have an advisory committee that reviews what is their past traction and what is their next
Okay.
18-month roadmap, right? So if you are really fundraising for the next 18 months to scale, not just establish, to grow the sustainable solution and have a profitable impact on a community level, then those are the startups that get selected to pitch. So we have a mix of
Yeah.
startups from sustainability, AI, fintech, and climate tech that are pitching at our summit.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And then beyond, so what are you seeing now in the marketplace in terms of those companies? Hopefully, they have traction. They actually have some product market fit to actually raising capital.
Yeah, so one of the challenges with the raising capital is all of us think that the market might not be as steady. But when I talk to investors, I also host a podcast once a month talking to impact investors. When I interview them, and I've interviewed about like about 9 or 10 of them so far this year, and we
Yeah.
interview about 12 to 20 every year. When I talk to them, I hear that before the pandemic, the prices were bloated, overvalued. During the pandemic, they tried to come down, and investors are telling that today the valuation is stable or it is standardized. So there is
Okay.
investor interest. So you might not get funding at a very overvalued scenario because it was more artificially driven during the pandemic before and after. But now I hear from investors there is interest, they continue to invest, but you might not see overvaluation getting traction. So you need to really,
Yeah.
as a startup founder, focus on what is the right valuation for the right type of growth you anticipate in the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah. And I think because the IPO market seems to be opening up a little more, I have to imagine, and I would love your feedback on if that's opening up the flow all along the sort of capital ladder.
Yeah, so one of the things I have seen is sometimes people say that the valuation is standardized. When valuation standardized comes down from the overvaluation state to a normalized state, that's when private equity firms, hedge funds, and fund of funds are shopping. Their primary goal
Mm.
is M&A or IPO, which means this is the right market for them to shop for deals that are late stage and IPO. And when you see interest from late stage investors, early stage investors kind of pick up more investing for the reason that they see traction and ROI when their exit happens.
Right, because they're thinking of the future for the businesses
Yes.
they're funding now and moving them along the way.
Yeah. For
No,
them, 5 to 7 years is really critical. And if they see traction or interest in that stage, then they're going to obviously invest today.
yeah. No, that's amazing. So, and what do you hope, uh, and how do you sort of track if there are sort of quantifiable impacts from an event like this? Obviously, there's a lot of connections made, but are there sort of like cold hard like facts that you try to, see and analyze from this?
Yeah, so in the last few years, where I've been running monthly events as well as the annual summit, not only during Climate Week, but during FinTech Week, Tech Week, as well as Climate Week, one of
Hmm.
the best feedbacks I've had is typically you get feedback from audience that the speaker is good, the startup is good, the investor is good. We learned a lot from the panel or the pitch. I get reverse feedback where the speakers tell me that the audience was curated very well. Quality
Okay.
audience. They're not sitting in the audience and scrolling their phones, not paying attention. They are actively
Sure.
listening. They are asking a lot of questions and they follow with speakers after the event is over. That's one of the
Sure.
best feedbacks I've got. And I always follow with all the speakers and startups and investors to see what we can do better next time. And the second thing is from audience perspective, we also run a survey a couple of times after the event to collect both qualitative and quantitative feedback, asking what could help better next time, what could have been improved currently, and what are some scorings in terms of how they felt about the experience at the summit or the event itself. And the last thing is when they come and join the community as part of our membership program, I know it has worked because
Oh,
people
okay.
want to continue the conversation from the event to being part of our online
Yeah.
community as well as be part of our membership program through the year.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And a lot of times, a lot of events, the content is great, but then it's sort of, it just, it's like vapor, It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's a little bit, and it's also just a function of how many events there are, and everyone's so busy. Um, but are there any suggestions that you have for people coming to this event, or maybe other events that you run or other people run, that maybe something that you like to do ahead of an event? Because I have a couple, but I want to hear what you do ahead of an event to sort of I feel like it's important to lay the groundwork and foundation, because a successful event a lot of times for an individual comes from being sort of prepared.
Yeah. So one of the things I do is at least 2 months before the event or for the summit also, starting late July, early August, I already started connecting each and every speaker. For me, it's important that the speakers connect and network beyond just audience as well, right? If the speakers are connecting and networking way ahead before the summit, and they are able to share experiences, mutually collaborate, and help each
Hmm.
other learn more about each other, I think we are going to have more honest conversations on the summit than some rehearsed scripts. That's one.
Yeah.
And I connect speakers across panels with each other on a weekly basis, find out what's happening, how they are doing, at least 2 months leading up to the summit on a weekly basis. On the other hand, with audience, I try to share all information that's publicly possible about the speakers with the audience who have registered, who are trying to register part of our community through social
Yeah.
media as well as on our channels on a weekly basis, telling them this is who is coming, this is who is joining. You can feel free to network with them. And I also ask my startups, if you want to meet with some of the investors who are coming to our summit ahead, kind of have a one-on-one chat with them, find out more, or even network, I'm happy to make those
Sure.
introductions. So the best success would be for you to find out who you can network with before the summit, so the
Yeah.
summit day is more fruitful and meaningful. Like you can talk to those few that you really wanted to expand your discussion from, instead of trying to find out, oh, who do I talk to, who do I meet, and then the day goes by.
Right. Because then you'd rather, yeah, you don't want to come in blind. So I
Yeah.
I always send a note to some people if I know they're coming, or almost make it an appointment there on the site. But then obviously you let serendipity take its effect and take its place, because you want to meet people you've never met before and help them and find out what they're looking to do. And then if you can kind of help one or two other people, it really compounds. That's how
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I've seen so many examples where it would be a very big conference and there are multiple rooms, and two people are in a room by mistake because they were supposed to be in two different rooms, and the room was full. And it so happened
Yeah.
I've made long-term connections from those
Yeah.
unexpected people that I met in a panel that I didn't plan to join in
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah. I've been calling that curated serendipity. Um, but yeah, no, pre-networking really works. It really
Yeah.
does amazing stuff. Um, what else are you working on for next? Like what are the next after this event? Um, what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about for the fall, winter?
Yeah, so from Wallet Max side, we do have our membership program expanding to provide access to many audiences, because we had it exclusive for certain types of audiences. I keep getting requests that we need to be part of it. I am doing this, why not me? So, one of the exciting things is expanding our membership program to a broader set of audiences this fall 2025. And we are
Okay.
already working on three different programmings for FinTech Week 26 in New York in April, June 26 for Tech Week. And again, I already know what date. Next year, Emerald
Yeah.
Summit and Tech Climate Week is going to happen. So those are like priorities on Wallet Max side. Personally, from my end, I'm also writing a book. I'm getting it published 2026. So that's also something that's going to keep me
Okay.
occupied along with Wallet Max.
Yeah, I would imagine that's gonna keep. What's the book about?
So the book is going to be about risk management, but not necessarily Wall Street or financial kind of risk, basically everyday risk. Constantly on a daily basis, all of us are taking risks, just that we don't label it as risk. But how can you be more smart about it, make it more like your growth engine, not take reckless
Mm.
risks, but have a plan and framework and blueprint around it. So that's going to be my book called Everyday Risk Wisdom.
Everyday risk. Cool. If you could have this conversation or like a one-on-one at your event with any one person from now or from history, who would you like to have on your stage?
Yeah, I want to see if I can talk to Pepsi CEO Indra Nooyi.
Okay.
She was one of the very first CEOs at Pepsi who brought performance and purpose together. Basically,
Okay.
Pepsi, as you know, is a very large multinational corporation, but
Sure.
climate sustainability and impact metrics were missing in their financial projections. So she
Hmm.
pioneered that several decades back at Pepsi. Today, Pepsi by default is 50% profit, 50% impact, and they have had more business and more growth in emerging markets and developed markets because they changed their strategy. So I think this is a very good case study and success story where a large multinational corporation operating across 160 or more countries can
Hmm.
still have impact and climate consciousness in its day-to-day profit-oriented business, and how it used at its advantage to expand its business instead of trying to say, okay, sustainability is going to impact our profits. So she pioneered that at Pepsi globally, and it still is the norm at Pepsi. So I would say that she could be a great example where she can help others understand how a multi-billion dollar corporation can have a
Yeah.
50% sustainability focus while expanding markets and profits.
Yeah. And I think those types of examples and case studies are definitely have to be sort of thought through, and companies big and small need to, and obviously municipalities and others need to think about how to apply it to their own situation. So hopefully through events like yours and these conversations, that starts getting the ball rolling on that. Do you have any last takeaways or thoughts you want to just, for people to think about for the rest of the day and going into your event?
Yeah, just try to think of climate as implementing or integrating into your day to day life. So think of it as something that affects your pocket and health and your family, your business, and your neighborhood. You need not try to change the world overnight, but if you can take small steps, and we'll share a lot of real life examples and action plans at the summit, then that is sufficient to make a wider impact. So we are talking about small steps, community oriented action towards a sustainable future that's for people, and also not forgetting profit. So I'd say if you have interest to attend the summit, go to the website getwalletmax.com. You'll find a lot of ticketing options. And if you think you
Sure.
need something else, just drop us an email. We are happy to work with you on a flexible basis.
That's amazing. And yeah, let's leave links in the comments here after we're done so people can see it. And we'll try to cut up some highlight reels from today and generate some activity from that. And thank you so much for coming on. Good luck next week. Send regards to everyone. We'll see what I can do in terms of coming, but um, I'll make an effort. All right. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
and
Thank you so much.
I
And I hope
appreciate
to
it
see
today
you
so
there.
much. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks,
Have a great
everyone.
day. All right.
Bye.
Bye.